Gravity Cast.
Welcome to World Building Wednesdays, Episode 6, Fast Forward. In this episode, we continue to work on the design for the Abyss of Silhaldun, which is one of the locations on the adventure map in the board game. So the first thing I did was lower the opacity of the sketch layer so I could draw on top of it, and started filling in some of the outlines. One thing you'll notice is that I don't always draw directly over the sketch lines. Sometimes I notice they just don't look as good and end up drawing new lines, like in the case of that sunset, I actually drew it too high the first time. So I continue with the other details like the fish and the star map, and then onto the waves and the murals that are on the side of this building. You'll also start to notice that I'm adding some damage and distress to some of the walls, like they're on the side and the middle and underneath here, so chunks of stone look like they're falling away. This is an ancient structure after all, so everything shouldn't look perfect. There should be a few things that look worn and damaged just from, general use and weather over the years. Here I'm just going around and filling in the rest of the details like grass and the walkway that leads up to the stairs, and keep adding more distress and damage to some of the blocks here. I was trying to save a little time by copying the artwork from one side of the structure to the other, but then I realized when I would go to scale this down that the line art would be too skinny. So usually I use a 4-pixel line, and if I scale it down it becomes a lot thinner, so I can't actually do this in the final like I can in the sketch. So I just abandoned that idea and went ahead and just drew that manually. Before I ran out of time, I wanted to try some colors and get some community feedback for that. Biku thought we could try tan for the block color, so I went ahead and filled the major sections in. I didn't want it to be one solid color, so I tried to use a few different colors to see what we could do for the inlays. The light orange color felt just a bit too bright, and I tried to do like some kind of two-tone thing, and it just didn't work very well. Sapphire City Game Parlor thought I should just stick with this dark gray, and I kind of agreed. I think it worked out really well that way and gave some contrast to the design. So with the block color decided, I went through and filled in some of the rest of the major color sections, like the water and the grass. Still thought we could add a little more flavor to the block design, so I went and referenced Malragwan's sword inlays, which had two-tone, like gold inlays, so I thought we could try something like that with the swirls, different colors. Biku also thought the grass looked too much like acid instead of grass, which that bright green didn't help, so I went ahead and turned that into a darker shade of green and started filling in some shadows on this to see what the true colors were going to look like. So I went back to doing the two-tone artwork for the block designs, and I think it really helped make the artwork pop. At this point I had a pretty good idea what the foreground colors were going to look like, but I was really struggling on how to handle the backgrounds because this was the first time that I've tackled an environment design for this game. Since the art style is very bright, I wanted to make sure that we weren't using harsh, dark outlines for the background, but I started with the same color for everything else, and I was going to modify it from there. So to get this right, I went ahead and filled in some of the background colors, and I realized I really didn't like that color of water that I chose, so I ended up using a darker blue. Started blocking out the clouds in the sky and was actually erasing sections to make the shadows. To help soften the backgrounds up a little bit, I turned the opacity of the clouds and anything in the background to 50%. I also had to go back and fix the waterfall color as well to get that darker blue. Started adding some highlights to the water just to give it a little more depth. And that's all the time we had for this episode, but it gave me a really good idea what environments were going to look like in the game. I appreciate everyone stopping by. Thanks, and have a great week creating.